Hi class, so I am going to show you how to use the curvature and the pen tool today. I just want to tell you at the beginning, both of these tools are a little bit tricky and they're going to take some time to develop. So I don't want you to get frustrated. We're just going to keep working on these over the next few weeks. And if you use Illustrator, you'll have to use this tool quite a bit for you to become a master at it. So I'm just showing you what file you need to work on this assignment. If you go to my band and scroll down to January 30th, there's a Google Drive link where you can download this worksheet. And so this should be an AI file so that you can work on it in Illustrator. So once you've downloaded that worksheet, you're going to open that in Illustrator and it should look like this. Okay? It's called Curvature and Pen Worksheet. So today I'm going to show you how to use the curvature tool and also the pen tool. People have different preferences for how they use these tools, and you can certainly pick which one you like best. We're going to start with some basic shapes up here at the top, and then we're going to get into some more complicated ones. Yes, these are going to be hard. Mostly I just want you to start messing around with these tools and clicking and dragging and figuring out how they work. Okay, so over here in your layers palette, you probably, when you brought this in, you had your first layer here. I doubt that you had any more layers, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to go down and create a new layer that will be on top of this worksheet layer. And you can title the bottom layer worksheet. And then you'll want to lock that so that you're not moving it around. And then your second layer will be called your assignment. Okay, I don't know why I have another layer here. So I'm just going to get rid of that guy by dragging him to the trash. Okay, so now your layers should look like this. You should have a worksheet layer that's locked and an assignment layer. So first we're going to work with this top row up here. So I'm going to zoom in with Command plus, and I'm going to use my space bar to grab this page and come up to this circle. Okay. So we're going to work with the curvature tool first, and we're going to come over here to properties. Oh, let me see if I have this right. So we're going to let's go pick the curvature tool, and you're going to want a stroke over here in your properties of 2 points, 1 to 2 points, so that you can see it on top of this blue here. Okay. So with the curvature tool, basically, the primary function of this is to do curves, but it also does straight lines. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this works, and then I'm going to delete my circle, and then you can do it along with me. Okay, so to draw circles with either of these pen tools, the curvature or the pen tool, you always want to think about where the curve is changing direction. Okay, we want to do the least amount of anchor points as possible. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So on this, I'm going to click at the top. This is where the circle is changing direction. It was coming up, and now it's coming down. So we're going to click at the very top of this circle. You could call this the apex of the circles, like where they're changing direction. So now if I look at the circle right here on the edge, so it was coming, down and to the right, and now it's going down and to the left. So right where it changes direction, we're going to click, and that's where the curve is going to be. Okay, so then as I start to drag down, you can see this red line. That's the path that this is going to create. So now we're going to click at the bottom, and that's going to create a curve. Now we're going up and to the left, and now it's changing, it's going up and to the right. About this is where the circle is changing direction. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click at the top, and now I have created a circle. Okay, so I want to show you, once you create an object with the curvature tool, if you want to adjust any of these points, you would pick the direct selection tool, which is A. You can click on those anchor points, and it's going to bring out these little guys. These little guys are called handles. Okay, and if I grab on by clicking to one of these handles, I can pull and manipulate my circle. So I just want you to grab one of those handles and dink around with it and kind of make it dance and see what happens. And then you can push Command Z and your circle will go back. So if I click on these handles, now if I click and hold Shift, it's going to make these stay up and down. And that really is what you would want with a circle, is to have these handles to be going straight up and down. If I release Shift, then I can move them wherever I want to and create really interesting shapes. Okay, so Command Z. You can also move these anchor points by clicking directly on the anchor point and moving it. So I want you to try that as well. Okay, so actually I was supposed to delete this when we were supposed to do it together. So I am going to delete this and we're going to try this together. So go to your curvature tool. You're going to click at the top to start your path. You're going to click on the side where the circle changes direction. You're going to click on the bottom where it's changing direction again, on the left side and on the top. And then you would have created a circle. Okay, so this is with the curvature tool. So now we're going to hold down the space bar and click and drag over to this next object, which is an oval. So select your curvature tool again. We're going to click on the top. Same principle applies. It's changing direction right here on the side. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to click at the bottom, over here on the other side, and at the top. Now you'll notice that this isn't quite lining up with the blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my direct selection tool. I'm going to click on this anchor point. Then I'm going to use these handles and I'm going to bring that line up a little bit on the top and down a little bit on the bottom, and I'm going to adjust these so that it's covering that blue outline that we had. Okay, so now that looks like an oval. You guys can practice with those as much as you need to. So this curvature tool doesn't only do curves, okay, it also does straight lines. So I'm going to teach you how to do that here. So we were doing single clicks to make curves, but if we want to make corners, we have to double click. So what we're going to do is we're going to single click on this little crown up here. Then I'm going to double click to make a corner. So double click, double click, double click. So if you ever want to make a corner while using this curvature tool, you simply double click. And then to close the path, if I do a single click, this makes it curved. So I have to double click, and I'm not sure why that little black triangle is showing up there. I think it's just a glitch there in my program. That is really funny. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to try it again. So let's go to the curvature tool, click, double click, double click. We're just going to double click all the way around this guy to make straight lines. And there we go. Now with this, you can also, if you zoom in and you use your direct selection tool, you can curve these points. So if you don't select one specifically, this will curve everything, right? If I select this one and then I can just do, so if I select one of these corner editing tools, then I can just use one of them, okay? All right. I can also, another thing that I want to show you on this one is that if I have this object selected and I go over here to properties, there's a little place right here where I can convert these corners. So right now, this corner, if I select it, it is a corner, and this little guy over here looks like a corner. This one looks like a curve. If I push the curve, it's going to change that into a curve for me. Okay, so that's just something handy that you're going to need to know for later. So I can take an anchor point and I can change it into a curve or change it back into a corner. Okay, now I want you to push spacebar, move over to your next shape. So this one's a little trickier. I'm going to use the curvature tool. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to click a spot that is the beginning of my curve. So here I'm going to want a curve. But now when I get to this other side, I'm going to want a corner because I'm going to work on a straight. The next thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a straight line. So I am going to double click right here and it will make like a corner for me. Now I'm going to single click at the bottom because now I want it to be curved again. I'm going to single click here. Oops, did not work. Sometimes it takes me a minute to figure out what I'm doing with this guy. All right, let's just try this again. So curvature tool, we're going to single click here. I'm going to single click for the curve. I'm going to double click because I want a corner right there. And then I'm sorry, we also want a corner here. So we're going to double click, single click for a curve, double click for a corner, double click for a corner, single click for a curve, double click for a corner, and then double click to have another corner there. So if you're doing this, it's a single click here, single click, double click for a corner, double click for a corner, single click, double click, double click, single for a corner, or single for a curve, double for a corner, and then double to finish it out. So that one might take a little bit of practice, okay? So this next one, if we come over to here, we're going to start it the same way that we started this guy. Now this one's a little bit tricky. We're going to have to put a little bit of a straight line right here. There's a tiny little straight line. So I'm going to single click for my corner, double click, and then I'm going to make another double click right here. Now I'm going to single click for a curve, double click for my straight line, single click for a curve, single click for a curve, then I'm going to have a little double here. So double click, single click, double click, single click, double click, single click, double click, single click, double click. So I'm just going to finish this guy out. Okay, so now we have this guy. That one will probably take you a little bit of time as well. So again, you can go up to your direct selection tool or push A if you want to edit any of these anchor points if they aren't exactly where you want them to be. Let's say one of your curves was just a little wonky, you can come and edit them with the handles. So sometimes like your handle will be way out here and you can't get the curve to be controlled and come back in. That's just because you need to come back later and you need to bring that curve down so that you need to bring that handle down so your curve's smaller. Okay, so those are the basics of the curvature tool. So now I'm going to use the regular pen tool. So the pen tool is P, or the one without the little curvy line on it, okay? So we're going to push P. So with the pen tool, you get to basically create the curves yourself. So some people like this one, some people like the curvature tool. I want you to mess around with both. But what still applies is that you still are going to click on curves where they are changing direction. So but there's one difference here is that when I click, I'm clicking and holding, I have to pull these handles out. I'm going to hold shift because I know I want them to stay going straight out from this circle basically. And then so I'm going to click and I'm going to drag my handles out, and then I'm going to click here. Now watch what happens. I'm clicking and now I'm dragging down. I'm actually dragging, clicking and dragging to create that curve. Okay, and then once I have it, I'm going to release, and then I'm going to click at the bottom and drag to the side to create that curve. Now make sure you check, like you can watch that red line, that's showing you where your curve is going. So you want it to be on that blue line. Click and drag, click, and you have to drag at the end to make that curve. Okay? So if something wasn't right, again, use your direct selection tool. You can come down here, click on these anchor points, and mess around with your handles to correct that circle. Okay, so now let's try this blue shape with the pen tool. So push P for pen tool. So we're going to click at the top, and we're going to drag some handles out. Hold Shift. Okay, I'm going to click this corner. I'm going to drag down, hold Shift. Click the bottom, drag, hold Shift. Click the side, drag, and drag. Okay, so practice that until you get the hang of it. So I'm going to push V just to get to my selection tool. Space bar to come over. Okay, so now for this crown, I'm going to push P again. This one, the pen tool, which we've used for straight lines, it's really easy to do straight lines, right? It's like a dot to dot. We're clicking on the corners. So I clicked once down here. I'm going to click on the corners. So click, click, just a single click all the way around to the end. There we go. Okay, so I am going to show you how to do these little guys. So for this one, I would click over here on the start of my curve. Now I'm going to click at the top. I'm going to drag a little curve and hold Shift to make sure my curve stays nice and straight. I'm going to click on this other side here, and it should make a curve for me. Now I'm just going to have a straight line, so I'm not clicking and dragging. I'm going to click again to complete my straight line. Click and drag to create a curve. Click, it should finish that curve out for me. I might have to come back and fix that one. So I'm going to come click over here, click in the middle and drag, click, drag a little bit, and then complete my object. So this one, my curve here is a little bit silly. I'm going to come and select this point, and I'm going to move it a little bit. And right now I have my smart guides on, and they are kind of doing where it's clicking things into position where I don't want it to. So I'm going to push Command U. It's going to turn those off for me so that I can edit this a little bit more freely. There we go. And so over here I want this to be a little bit more smooth, so I'm going to take this handle, I'm going to bring this out and down and just mess around with those handles until it's a little bit more smooth. Okay? So then this guy, so I'm going to click to start my curve. I'm going to click and drag, click and drag. Now this one is just going to be a series of curves. So I'm going to click and drag, click where things are changing directions, and drag. Let's see. Click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. That one. So I'm just going to keep going. Just imagine that I'm saying click and drag. Okay, so now I finished, and this one did end up being a little bit wonky, and the reason is because my handle is a little bit long here. So I needed to come and bring that handle in a little bit. So when you're creating shapes in Illustrator, you will work back and forth between the pen and curvature tools and that direct selection tool, which is A. You'll use those a lot together. So you just want to know how to go in between A and your pen tool or curvature tool. So that isn't perfect, but that kind of gives you the basics on how to use that tool. Okay. So now we're going to use either the pen tool or the curvature tool to work on these harder shapes. So I'm going to pick this bunny, and I'm going to use the curvature tool, and I'm going to show you a few things with that. So I'm going to pick the curvature tool, And basically I'm just finding where the curves are changing, and that's where I'm going to click. So I'm going to click right here on his nose, and I'm going to come right here where there's a little bit of a change. Remember, with the curvature tool, it's just a single click to create curves, okay? So I'm going to come to here, and then you can kind of see how it's creating those curves. So I'm going to click on the side here. So I'm just clicking where the curves are changing direction, okay? Now, right here, I want there to be a corner. So I'm going to double click, and that's going to make it change directions for me, okay? So I'm going to click where that curve is changing. Down here, I also want a corner. So I'm going to double click. Oops. So in some of these, it'll take you a little bit to... So I'm just clicking where the curves are changing direction. And continue to come down, and here I need a corner, so I'm going to double click. I click right here on this curve where it's changing direction. It's changing direction. Now sometimes your curve won't look like it's doing what you want it to. Just continue on to where the next one is changing directions, and a lot of times it'll give you a shape that you need. This one we might have to come back and adjust, but I just want you to watch what happens when I continue to click where those are changing direction. It kind of straightened itself out. So now down here we're going to double click because we need a corner. We're going to come here where this is changing direction, double click where we want the corner. Come down where this is changing direction in these few places, double click where we need a corner. Now here we're going to have a straight line, so we're going to double click because we need a corner. Double click here, we need a corner. Now I'm going to have to come back and fix this, and that's okay. Come around this side, not double click. Oops. Single click here, double click here in this corner. Single click for a curve, double click for a corner. Single click for a curve, double click for a corner. Double click for a corner. Single click for a curve, double click for a corner. And then, oops, single click, then double click for this corner, double click for a corner, changing directions kind of. Single click here, single click here. This guy I can probably bring all the way up. I gotta double click for a corner, and then finish out the nose. Okay, so now I'm going to go back through and I'm going to pick my direct selection tool, and I'm going to adjust some of these handles. So this guy just needs to come down a little bit. Okay, this guy looks like I need it to come a little shorter. There we go. Up here, this is looking pretty good. This ear got a little bit wide. I won't say that I necessarily don't like it. It actually looks okay, but if I want to fix it, I would bring this one in and adjust that guy. Okay, down here, I think I'm just going to need to bring this up and shorten this handle. Down here, this is looking okay. I don't really mind the way that tail looks. I think it looks fine. But down here, we have an issue because I have a curve happening where I might need a straight line. So really what I'm going to do is I am going to take this handle and straighten it out. There we go. Let's see what's happening up here. This guy needs to come in a little bit. This guy can come in. And there is your bunny with your curvature tool. Okay? So now I'm going to do this fox with the pen tool, and I'll kind of show you the difference. So remember, curvature tool is single click for curve, double for a corner. With the regular pen tool, okay, we're just single clicks and we're dragging. So with this guy, I'm going to start where this straight line is. I'm going to do a click here, I'm going to come up. This does have a little bit of a curve if you see, so I'm going to click where these curves are changing direction, and I'm going to drag almost like in the same direction as the blue line. And there we go, I'm going to get that first curve. So now I'm going to click where the curve changing direction. I'm going to drag in the direction of this fox's face. I'm going to release. I'm going to click, hold, and drag where the curves are changing directions. Click, hold, drag. Click, hold, drag. Now up here, it's really important to note that this will continue to be a curve if I continue clicking. So I need to convert this corner or this point to a corner. So if I get on that point and that little corner thing shows up with my pen, then I click and now it's going to be a corner. So now I can continue going. Click, drag. Click, drag. Now I need this to be a corner, so I'm going to click on this anchor point and it's going to convert that to a corner for me. I'm actually going to come straight up to this corner and just drag a little bit. This will probably work out for me. Come around because this is still a curve. Click, hold, drag. Click, oops. Click, hold, drag a little, but I'm going to click on that to make it a corner. Okay, so over here, I'm going to click and I'm going to make that a corner. Now a lot of these are straight lines. So now I'm just clicking to make those are just straight lines. So now here's a curve. Click, drag, click, drag, but I need it to be a corner, so I'm going to come click on that dot. Come up here. Click, drag in the direction of the blue line. Click to make it a corner. Come in. Click, drag in the direction of the blue line. Click to make it a corner. So click here and drag to make that curve. So click, drag, click, drag. Now click to make this a corner. Come back in here, click and drag, make it a corner. Click, drag. Might have to come back and fix that one. Click, drag, click. I'm gonna make that a corner. So I'm just gonna I'm not gonna talk, I'm just gonna quickly finish this up for you. There'll be some things, oops, that I have to fix. I go back. Okay, oops, almost finished here. I'm gonna just finish up real quick. Okay, so some of these aren't exact, but it still looks like a fox, so I'll probably just end up leaving some of those. Okay. So there is your fox done with the pen tool. So for your assignment, I just want you to work on that. We'll use the curvature tool, use the pen tool, see what you like best. And it's not going to be perfect, and we're going to have to practice quite a bit. I gave you hard examples so that it would push you a little bit to try the pen tool and the curvature tool in spaces where they would be tricky. Okay, so we will go ahead and finish all of these tracings for class, and you can export those as a ping and you can drop them into your homework file. Okay, so that's it on this lesson.